Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing my March Part 2 reading wrap-up. This is a 6-book long reading wrap-up. This month was not a lot of quantity for books, but I did have a very good quality of books. I don't think anything got under 3 stars, so I'm very happy with it. So these books are in order of least to most enjoyed, but I enjoyed all of them, so I wouldn't say any of them are non-recommended. Yeah, so let's dive in. The first one that comes up is Lolita. This is by Vladimir Nabokov, and I struggle with this book. The first time I read it as a very surface level book. I didn't really dive too deep into it. I wasn't in a headspace where I could dive deep into it. I just felt like I wanted to read it. And this time I was in a better headspace to dive in. I've been working very hard in therapy recently, and it has put me in a headspace where I'm kind of curious about certain mindsets, and this was one of those mindsets, and this is from the perspective of a pedophile. I myself have no, I'm not feeling that way. That is not what's going on at all. It's totally unrelated to my feelings as a person. It's trying to understand how a person could have those feelings towards a child is really what it comes down to. I haven't wrapped my head around it. I don't understand it, and I feel really disgusted by it. And so to read this from that perspective and have more insight into the idea of pedophilia, especially having read The Real Lolita last year, I felt much more easily able to judge the character Humbert. Yeah, it was a lot more plausible for me to look at it and really focus and get my ideas into my head and feel the judgment that I knew I was going to feel. So, and it was a lot less judgment on Lolita than it was the first time I read it, because there was an element of me, didn't blame her, there was no blame for her, but there was a part of me that felt that Lolita had been written in such a way that blame could be placed on her, and this time around I had no feelings of that, so I felt much better about the book as a whole the second time around. The second book I want to talk about is Murmur by Will Eves. This is the story of Alec Pryor, who is inspired by Alan Turing, the father of artificial intelligence and the pioneer of radical new technology break in the Nazi Enigma cipher during World War II. So, this was really difficult to read. It felt almost dreamlike. It is nominated for the Wellcome Book Prize. I believe it's been shortlisted. And I feel this book was really well executed, really beautifully inspiring, and had quite a bit of depth to it. It really felt like something beautiful. It's a dark subject, as Alan Turing was chemically castrated after being found out as gay, and so this book opens with the main character Alec being found out as gay and having to get hormone treatments. It's really dark. And it has a lot of scary undertones to it, especially as far as things for people in the queer community. Yeah, I definitely would say if you are someone who is LGBTQ, this could be a lot harder to read for you. It could really feel violating and very intense and emotionally draining. So I'm just going to warn you of that. It was a lot for me to read, and I'm not on that scale. So it could be really traumatizing to somebody who is part of that community. Then I read The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This was a recommendation by Harriet Rosie. My nose itches, but I have makeup on, so I'm trying not to scratch the makeup off. Very, very difficult. This was interesting. So this is the story of, how do I explain this? It's several girls. Like, there's quite a few girls. And you jump around in perspective. And through those girls, you learn that all of them are dealing with their sexuality, their ideas of right and wrong, their opinions of men, and their ideas about being a woman very differently. But after coming to terms with the fact that a girl who was raped, and then bullied to the point where she had to leave town, they band together in order to find justice and social correctness that is not being demonstrated by the adults in the scenario. I was very impressed by this book. I thought it was really excellently written. There were times where I wasn't sure whose mind I was in, though, and that's my biggest complaint. There were definitely moments where I would read and I wouldn't know who was talking, or I would feel like I just jumped in the middle of a paragraph. And that kind of threw me out of the story, but in and of itself, the book was really good and I really appreciated it. So I would recommend this to people. It is YA, so it's a lot more easygoing. It took me 2 days to finish and it's 390 something pages. It was super easy. I just had to pause partway through because it got to be a lot. And I needed some distance. So I gave myself a day of distance. Then I read this. This is The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I prefer the UK edition, but this one's pretty cute. Like, it's okay. I just prefer the UK edition because it has pink on it. I mean, this has pink, but it's not the pink I like. The other one has like pink and yellow. It's really pretty. I like it a lot. This one's just super cute. Yeah, I was really happy with this book. I felt, you could argue that the main character has some mental health issues, and is socially awkward due to that. I mean, probably you could argue some autistic characteristics. But honestly, I just read it as a person with some quirks. I didn't specify in my head if there was an illness or if there was a difference. I just let her be a character. And it worked really well for me. I was pretty happy with it. I tend to diagnose a lot of characters, but this one I just felt like she was who she was and there was really no explanation needed. So this is a story of a young girl named Kiko, who works in a convenience store. She's in college and a convenience store opens right nearby and she applies for a job and receives it. And then she just ends up at this convenience store job officially for like a really long time. And everyone is kind of wondering why she hasn't moved up in rank, why she's not trying to get a better job. But she's really content, and the rules that are set in the convenience store on how to behave and how to do her job make it so that it feels very natural to her. She's able to get instructions on how to behave and how to interact with customers, which is something she's never received in her own life, which makes it so that she struggles a lot with dealing with people. I really liked this. I thought it was really sweet. I thought it was an easy read. It took me 2 hours. It's 157 pages, I think. And I was really happy with it. I would definitely say that I would recommend it, and I would be very happy to read it again. So I'm glad I have it on my shelves. It was really worth it. Then I have this. This was reading for therapy. It wasn't recommended by my doctor, but my doctor did say it would have benefits for me as a book relating to my treatment. So this is The Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma by Bessel van der Kolk, MD. It's nonfiction, so it was very intense. It took me a while to finish this. I listened to it on audio and followed along so that I could underline and things. I could only listen in like 40 minutes at a time. I couldn't do more than that. It was a lot of work to read about what trauma does to the body and how it affects the mind and physical stability. A lot of information I kind of knew, or I kind of was prepared to know. Like, I was a little bit curious if that would be the case with my body, like if I have a worse immune system because of it, or if my flashbacks are of a general, like what's going on in my brain when a flashback occurs. What does that look like, and how does that work, and what is happening in my brain during a panic attack, and that kind of stuff. And it was really thorough and explaining very well, and I really liked it. I will definitely read this again. I'm glad to have it on my shelves, and I'm really excited to dive into it. I think I'm going to keep reading it a second time now, and I just won't bring it up again, but I think I'm going to read it a second time now to see if I can get more out of it and go even slower. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. And then my favorite book of the month is this. This hasn't been hauled yet. This is The Welsh Fasting Girl by Valerie O'Connor. So Sarah Jacob is a woman who is identified as the first fasting girl. This is based on the first case ever documented of anorexia. I really enjoyed it. I solidly recommend it. It's from Bellevue Literary Press. They sent it to me for review, and I am really happy with it. I would say it's emotional and draining and very it stressed me out a lot, but it was really interesting and I really enjoyed it. to kind of dive into what the world thought of anorexia before it was a diagnosis was really, really intriguing, and I'm really happy I read it. I would definitely recommend this book. I think it's a really interesting story about an eating disorder. If you are interested in ED books, then this is a good one to read. I have a top 5 eating disorder books. I'll link it up in the cards. This would not be on my top 5, but it's probably top 10. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it. It's probably a little bit more for people who enjoy historical fiction, which I always tend to rate lower. I just don't get along with it as well as I do other books. So yeah, this is interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely say that you should pick it up. Yes. So those are all the books. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. I will talk to you in the comments. Thank you so much to my Patreons for your support. If you're interested in supporting me, my Patreon will be linked in the doobly-doo. I will talk to you on my next video, and I'll see you then. Bye.